There are some limitations to Power BI when it comes to applying the best practices of financial reports. And we gathered the list, but just to mention a few, like there's a lack of advanced variance analysis inherent, which is like a standard for business reporting, right? There's limited customization for visuals for financials. Of course, there's widely accepted standards on how these financial statements should look like, right? So we should have subtotals below, and we should like have a certain sort order, represent the data in a very, very standardized structure, which everyone can accept is already accepted, right? And then we have inadequate support for visual storytelling and commentary, right? Typically, all of these insights will be supported with commentary, with highlights, with additional emphasis on important information, right? And drawing our bottom line. Now, of course, all of this is also complex in managing financial hierarchies, lack of international business communication standards in terms of like how to actually visualize the insights and to have this unified approach where you don't get overwhelmed by all of the possibilities that Power BI and those tools offer, right? Because there's more than 300 visuals that you can use in Power BI and different charts and so on. Not all of them will actually serve a purpose. They can even misconstrue the data. Now, there's also no built-in support for dynamic formatting based on data context, like limited visual options for hierarchical data and multi-level subtotals, limited flexibility by adding like additional rows, ratios, and adding quick calculations on the fly. Now, we believe that the solution is using Zebra BI with custom visuals on top of Power BI. And this is something that you can expect, right? And there are, of course, by using these visuals, you get built-in IBCS standards. So what do we mean by that? So all the charts that you use, and this is really important, right, will follow certain visualization standards. And then there's a distinction between when we should use also like a chart or a table or even a card in terms of producing the right results for better understanding of all stakeholders. Also like presenting automatic variances and forecasting scenarios for future cases. Now, here we can see like the typical two cases, right? When we have a time series or trend analysis, any sort of seasonality, we will use a horizontal orientation in all our visualizations. This allows intuitive interpretation from left to right, from oldest to newest, right? Charts are the right option in this regard. Now, we typically use tables in this case when looking up data and on categorical analysis, right? So all sorts of structural breakdowns and of course for data density, the vertical orientation is then really good. Now, for additional like KPI stop level information, we can include visualization, but we can also just leave KPIs as indicators. But we need to, again, first of all, properly scale, but indicate the performance, integrate that automatic variance analysis into the visualizations, and also, of course, add additional insights. And with the power of Power BI on top of that, right, we can then filter down into specific areas of interest. And this is the power, right? And everyone can get access to the right level of detail when it's needed. And then we can take a look also into the future with forecasts, right? Because there are typical financial scenarios, right, where we want to include even our forecasts. And if we have a standard that supports showing this in the right way, which in IBCS is this hatch pattern, we can even indicate our full year performance on top of that. Now, there's also like, this is maybe more of a top level executive summary that a CFO or view that a CFO might look at. But then, of course, we also have the need for like typical financial statements, the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. And again, financial statements also require to follow this structure, right? So we want to have subtotals below, right? So that you can even expand on that. But when you include visualization, you want to even showcase how we get to certain numbers. And this is really important. We have to have proper scale on top of this, right? To be able to showcase how we achieve the revenue, and then we subtract all the different accounts to get to the underlying subtotals like gross profit, operating income, net income, and so on. And we need to be able to present this in high information density, right, in tables, but together with insights, right? Even if we collapse or expand certain rows, we want to present the right amount of insight and details with commentary, but then we can even like integrate hierarchical commentary on top. And all of this can be done with the help of these custom visuals, right? And we can integrate multiple different, let's say, financial statements within the same like dashboard. And this is of course the power of Power BI, right? We don't have a static report. We can integrate dynamic dashboards that allow like going into different views of our data and dynamically showcasing the insights, switching from, let's say, month-to-date, year-to-date views on the spot, and so on. Now, the third and final, let's say, benefit of Power BI itself is, of course, that Power BI allows us to build robust reports that can cater to all user groups. And the key benefit is there is a single source of truth, right? And accessible to the right stakeholders. So financial controllers can look into their data at the right level, understand the different markets, the different cost centers, and then, of course, add those integrated comments into the dashboards themselves. Then again, we can combine this with top level overviews, where of course you want to have more consolidated data, again at different levels, depending on the seniority and the oversight for different markets. So we can swap between different regions, and of course get different information on top, right? When those are selected. And again, for like cost center owners, there's of course different views and so on and so on.